You never think it's gonna be someone you know. You never think it's gonna be someone you trust with your whole heart. That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't come from enemies. It comes from the people you let in. The people you laugh with. The ones you would have sworn would never cross a line. I remember that night so clear, it's like my mind refuses to let it go. Even now, if the house is too quiet, if the door creaks open just right, I swear, my heart jumps into my throat all over again. It's been over a year since that night. Since everything I thought was safe, everything I thought was sacred, got turned inside out. They say time heals everything. But what they don't tell you is that some wounds don't close. Some just stay open, quiet, bleeding beneath the surface where nobody can see. I'm not here to play the victim. And I'm not here to make excuses. I'm just here to tell the truth. Because if you've ever felt lonely, if you've ever been in a room full of people and still felt invisible, if you've ever needed someone to just see you, then maybe you'll understand why what happened. Maybe you'll understand how easy it is to slip when you're reaching for something that feels like air. I didn't go looking for trouble. I didn't set out to betray my vows, my life, my home. It found me. It wore a smile I trusted. It spoke with a voice that made me feel like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't invisible after all. And before I knew it, I was standing at a line I swore I would never cross. And the scariest part? For a second, it didn't feel wrong. It felt like breathing after holding my breath for far too long. Subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold. Because here we don't just tell stories. We tell the truths people are too afraid to say out loud. And what happened next still shakes me to my core. I got married young. Too young, maybe. But back then, it didn't feel that way. Back then, it felt like I had found my person. The one who made me feel like I was enough, even when the rest of the world made me doubt it. I was in my early 30s when everything started to shift. Not all at once. Not with a bang. More like a slow leak. Like a tire losing air 1 mile at a time until you don't even realize how hard it's gotten to keep moving forward. My husband, Mark, he used to be my whole world. We were the kind of couple people looked at and said, "You two are lucky." And maybe we were. Or maybe we were just two kids who believed love would be enough to carry everything else. But life has a way of wearing you down. His work started pulling him away more and more. Late nights at the office. Weekend business trips. Phone calls during dinner when I needed him most. It wasn't that he stopped loving me. At least, I don't think he did. It's just, he wasn't there. Not really. Not in the way I needed him to be. And me? I got good at pretending it didn't bother me. At brushing it off with a smile. At telling myself I was strong, independent, patient. That he'd come back around when things at work settled down. That it wasn't personal. That it didn't mean anything was wrong with me. But late at night, lying alone on my side of the bed, staring at the empty space where he used to be, it was hard not to wonder if maybe I was just easy to leave behind. We lived in a cozy little house on the edge of town. Nothing fancy. A white porch swing. An old oak tree in the front yard that dropped leaves like crazy every fall. Inside, it always smelled like vanilla candles and fresh laundry. Warm. Inviting. But sometimes, when the sun went down and the silence crept in, it felt less like a home and more like a museum. Full of things nobody really touched anymore. Empty dinner plates sitting on the table long after the kids ran off to their rooms. My phone lighting up, but it's never him. Or worse. It's him, but the messages are short. Mechanical. A checklist of life, not a conversation between people who once couldn't fall asleep without saying I love you. That's when Marcus started coming around more. Mark's best friend since college. He was like family. The kind of guy who never missed a birthday, a barbecue, a holiday dinner. Loud, funny, always full of stories that made you forget, for just a little while, how lonely you felt. He was good with the kids. The kind of fun uncle who tossed them in the pool, let them eat too much ice cream, made them laugh until they cried. And with me, he was safe. Or so I thought. Marcus had this easy way about him. Like he could sit next to you on the porch swing and make you feel like you mattered. Like you weren't just someone's wife, someone's mother, someone's afterthought. At first, it was comforting. At first, it felt harmless. Someone seeing me, someone asking how my day was and actually waiting to hear the answer. Not rushing off to another meeting. Not distracted by emails or deadlines. Just there. But the thing about feeling invisible for too long is that when someone finally looks at you, really looks, it's easy to forget how dangerous it can be. And sometimes the people you trust most are the ones you never see coming. It all really started the night Mark got that call. I was standing at the sink, rinsing plates, half listening to him pacing behind me. I caught words like urgent, client in crisis, have to fly out tonight. He sounded apologetic, but his eyes were already somewhere else. I nodded, told him it was fine, told him not to worry about me and the kids, told him, like I always did, that we'd be okay. And the truth was, we would be. We had gotten good at living around the empty spaces he left behind. Good at pretending it didn't sting every time he chose the road over our home. He kissed the top of my head, grabbed his suitcase. And just like that, he was gone. That first night, I kept busy. Baths, bedtime stories, laundry. All the usual noise that keeps your mind from wandering too far into the quiet. It wasn't until after the kids were asleep that the silence settled in. Thick, heavy, the kind that presses on your chest and makes it hard to breathe. I was half-heartedly folding towels when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. For a second, my heart jumped into my throat. But when I looked through the window, there he was, Marcus, standing there with a toolbox in one hand and a sheepish smile on his face. Said he figured I could use a hand. Said he remembered me complaining about the kitchen cabinet door hanging loose. Said he had nothing better to do. I almost told him no. I almost said it wasn't a good time, but the words stuck somewhere in my throat. Because the truth was, I didn't want to be alone. Not that night. So I let him in. I watched him work for a while, tightening screws, telling dumb jokes that made me laugh even though I didn't feel like laughing. The house didn't feel so heavy with him there. It felt lighter, almost like it used to. When he finished, he found a bottle of wine sitting unopened on the counter. One Mark and I had been saving for a special occasion that never seemed to come. Marcus held it up with a grin. Said it'd be a shame to let it collect dust. I should have said no. I know that now. But I didn't. I told myself it was just a drink. Just a thank you. Just a way to fill the space where loneliness was starting to settle too deep into my bones. We sat on the couch, the bottle between us. Talking, laughing, telling stories we'd all heard before but still found a way to laugh about. And for a while, it was easy. Easy to forget the ache sitting quietly in my chest. Easy to pretend this was just another evening with an old friend. But then there was a moment. A glance that lingered just a little too long. A joke that hung in the air too heavy, too charged. I felt it, like a ripple under the surface. Small, but enough to make my skin prickle. Marcus looked away first. Laughed it off. Poured another glass. And me? I told myself it was nothing. Just the wine. Just my imagination. Just loneliness playing tricks on me. If I had recognized the warning signs then. If I had paid attention to that tiny crack splitting the ground beneath my feet, maybe things wouldn't have gone so far. But the thing about loneliness, the thing about needing to be seen, is that it makes you blind to the dangers standing right in front of you. I told myself it was nothing. That night, after Marcus left, I stood in the kitchen, staring at the half-empty bottle of wine, feeling the strange, guilty heat curling in my chest. I shouldn't have felt excited when he smiled at me like that. I shouldn't have noticed the way his eyes softened. Like he was seeing a part of me that had been invisible for a long time. But I did. And the guilt hit hard. It clung to me, thick and ugly, making it hard to breathe. I told myself he was just being nice. He's always been nice. He's always been the life of the party, the one who made everyone feel welcome. That's all it was. It had to be. But deep down, a part of me knew it wasn't that simple. And once you see something, you can't unsee it. Once you feel it, you can't pretend you didn't. The next day, Mark called from wherever he was. The conversation was short. Distracted. I asked how his meetings were going. He gave me one-word answers between the clicks of a keyboard. I asked when he was coming home. He said he wasn't sure yet. Maybe another few days. Maybe longer. And just like that, the ache inside me grew a little deeper. A little heavier. I stood there, clutching the phone to my ear, whispering, "I miss you," into a silence that didn't bother to whisper back. When the call ended, I just stood there, holding a deadline, feeling like a fool for needing more than he could give. The loneliness wasn't new. It had been growing in the corners of my life for a long time. But now it was different. Now it had a name, a face, a memory attached to it. I found myself replaying old moments in my head. Mark and me, back when things were easy. Back when a touch meant something. Back when we stayed up late just talking, just laughing, just being. I could almost hear the echoes of our younger selves in the empty rooms, almost see the shadows of what we used to be. But no matter how hard I tried to hold on to those memories, they felt like ghosts, like dreams slipping through my fingers. And in the middle of all that, Marcus's laugh would slip into my mind. The way his eyes crinkled when he smiled. The way he leaned in when I spoke, like my words actually mattered. The way, just for a moment, I didn't feel invisible. I hated myself for feeling it. For wanting it. For needing it. I tried to shove it down. Tried to bury it under chores and PTA meetings and grocery runs. Tried to tell myself it didn't mean anything. That I was just tired. That I was just lonely. That it would pass if I just kept my head down and pretended hard enough. But it didn't pass. It clung to me, wove itself into every silent dinner, every unanswered text. Every night I crawled into a cold bed, telling myself not to cry because it wouldn't change anything. And somewhere deep inside, a small, broken voice whispered the question I didn't want to hear. Was it really so wrong to crave it? To crave being seen? To crave feeling alive again? Was it really wrong? To want something more than empty spaces and half-hearted goodnights? I didn't have an answer. All I had was the quiet. And the way Marcus's smile stayed with me long after he was gone. The days that followed blurred together. School drop-offs, grocery lists, emails left unanswered. Life, on the surface, looked the same. But underneath, everything felt different. Marcus started coming by more often. Always with some excuse. The leaky faucet. The light bulb in the hallway. Helping me load groceries from the car. Little things. Small favors. Things Mark used to do without thinking. Back when he was still here. It was easy to pretend, at first, that nothing was happening. That it was just kindness. Just a friend looking out for a friend. But then there were the little moments. Moments that shouldn't have meant anything, but somehow did. Passing a plate across the kitchen counter, our hands brushing just a second too long. Sitting across from each other, talking about nothing, but the way his eyes stayed on mine felt heavier than the words we spoke. Laughing at some silly story he told the kids, and realizing the silence afterward felt too full, too thick with something neither of us said out loud. It wasn't one big moment. It was 1,000 tiny ones. Each one pulling us a little closer to a line we weren't supposed to cross. That night, when he brushed my hair from my face, I didn't pull away. I should've. God, I should've. But I didn't. I just sat there. Frozen. Melting. All at once. And he didn't say a word. Didn't try anything. Just smiled that soft, knowing smile that made something in my chest twist in a way I couldn't explain. The next evening, he stayed after helping with the kids. The dishes were done. The house was quiet. He should have left. I should have made him leave. But I didn't. I didn't ask him to go, and he didn't offer. We sat on the porch, watching the sun slip down behind the trees. The air between us was thick. Not with words. Not with anything either of us could name. Just something heavy. Something waiting. He started talking then. Not jokes. Not silly stories. Real things. Hard things. How lonely he'd been lately. How empty his house felt when he walked in after work. How sometimes he wondered if anyone would even notice if he just disappeared. His voice cracked when he said it. Just a little. Just enough for me to feel it in my bones. Because I knew that feeling. I knew it too well. Without thinking, I reached out and touched his hand. Just a simple gesture. A human one. But it felt like stepping off a cliff. His fingers curled around mine before I could pull back. Warm. Solid. Real. I should have said something. Made a joke. Broken the moment. But I didn't. I just sat there, holding on to him like he was the last real thing in a world that had gone cold. And in that moment, it didn't feel wrong. It didn't feel dangerous. It felt like breathing, like finally being seen. When I finally pulled my hand back, the night felt different. Charged, trembling, like the whole house was holding its breath. Marcus didn't stay much longer after that. Just a quick goodbye at the door. No hug, no promises. Just a look. A look that said everything we were too scared to say out loud. I watched him walk to his car, headlights flashing on as he pulled out of the driveway. And even after he was gone, the warmth of his hand stayed on mine. It would have been easier if things had just stopped there. If we had drawn the line, buried it deep, and never spoken of it again. But the next time he came by, it was harder to pretend we hadn't felt it. Harder to pretend we hadn't already started something we couldn't take back. And the worst part? I didn't know if I even wanted to. It was a Friday night when the storm rolled in. One of those sudden summer storms that darken the sky without warning, that make the air heavy and restless before the first drops even fall. The kids were upstairs, already tucked into bed, their soft breathing filling the baby monitor with a low, steady hum. The rain came hard against the windows, and the wind howled through the cracks in the old house. I lit a few candles when the power flickered and finally went out, plunging the house into a thick, humming darkness. Marcus showed up not long after, soaked from the rain, holding a flashlight and a sheepish grin. Said he figured we'd need a little backup if the lights didn't come back on. I should have told him to go home. I should have said I was fine. But the truth was, I wasn't fine. I hadn't been fine for a long time. And standing there, watching the rain drip from his hair, seeing the way the candlelight softened the sharp lines of his face. I didn't want to be alone. Not tonight. We ended up on the couch. A candle flickered on the coffee table between us, throwing long, soft shadows across the walls. The kind of light that blurs edges, makes everything feel closer. More dangerous. We didn't talk much. There wasn't anything left to say that wouldn't unravel us both. We just sat there, breathing the same heavy air. Both of us too aware of the silence. Of the way the world outside had gone wild while inside. Inside, everything was still. Waiting. I don't remember who leaned in first. Maybe it was both of us. Maybe it was something neither of us could stop anymore. 1 second, we were sitting apart. The next, Marcus reached out. Slowly, like he was giving me time to pull away. Like he was asking without words. His hand found my face. The rough warmth of his palm against my skin made my whole body go still. Frozen. Burning. I should have moved. I should have said no. I should have remembered everything I stood to lose. But I didn't. I just sat there, breathing in the scent of rain on his jacket, feeling the tremble in his fingers as they brushed my cheek. And when he leaned closer, when his forehead pressed lightly against mine, I let my eyes close. For a second, there was nothing but the sound of the storm, the thunder rolling low and deep, like the earth itself was holding its breath. And then his lips found mine. Soft, hesitant at first, like he was still giving me a way out. But I didn't take it. I kissed him back. God help me, I kissed him back. And it didn't feel wrong. It didn't feel like betrayal. It felt like breathing after being underwater too long. It felt like waking up after years of sleepwalking through my own life. It was desperate and broken and beautiful all at once. It was the kind of kiss that says all the things you're too afraid to say out loud. The kind that doesn't ask for forgiveness because it knows it could never deserve it. When I opened my eyes, everything had changed, and there was no going back. The moment our lips parted, the room changed. The air snapped cold. The candle flickered like it was gasping for breath. And we just sat there, staring at each other. Both of us too stunned, too ashamed, too scared to move first. Marcus stood up without a word. His eyes dropped to the floor like he couldn't bear to look at me. He grabbed his flashlight off the table with a shaky hand, turned, and walked out the door. No goodbye. No explanation. Nothing. Just the sound of the door clicking shut behind him. And then, silence. Not the comfortable kind. Not the kind you can hide inside. The kind that screams. The kind that wraps around your throat and squeezes until you can't breathe. I locked the door, turned the deadbolt with hands that didn't feel like mine. And then I slid down the wall, crumpled onto the floor. The hardwood was cold against my skin, but nothing felt colder than what was clawing at my chest. Guilt. Sharp and raw and relentless, tearing me apart from the inside out. I pressed my forehead to my knees and tried to tell myself it wasn't real, that I hadn't just blown up my whole life in a single, reckless moment. But the taste of him was still on my lips. The memory of his touch still burned on my skin. I don't know how long I sat there. Minutes. Hours. Long enough for the candles to burn low, the house to sink deeper into darkness. And then my phone buzzed. I fumbled for it with numb fingers, half hoping it would be nobody. Half hoping it would be anybody but him. But it wasn't Marcus. It was Mark. A simple text. 8 little words. Enough to shatter whatever pieces of me were left. Miss you. Can't wait to be home. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. Until the letters stopped making sense. Until all I could see was the life I had just betrayed flashing before my eyes. Our home. Our kids. Our promises. All of it, tainted now. Ruined. And somewhere deep inside, a scream ripped through me. Silent. Suffocating. Endless. What have I done? What have I done? The days after felt like living underwater. Everything around me moved in slow, distorted waves. Sounds were muffled. Colors were dull. And all I could hear was the sound of my own guilt pounding inside my head. Marcus didn't come around. Not the next day. Not the day after that. No texts. No calls. No excuses about broken cabinets or burnt-out light bulbs. It was like he had vanished. And maybe that should have made it easier. Maybe the clean break, the sharp silence, should have helped me bury what happened. But it didn't. It only made the memory louder. Every time I closed my eyes, I was back there. Back in that moment. Back in the storm, the candlelight, the unbearable pull of needing something I didn't even know I was missing. And then, Mark came home. He walked through the door carrying his suitcase and a bouquet of wilted flowers he probably grabbed from the airport gift shop. He looked tired. Older somehow. But when he smiled at me, it wasn't distracted. It wasn't hurried. It was warm. Real. He pulled me into a hug that lasted longer than usual. He kissed my forehead like he used to. He asked how the kids were. How I was. And for a moment, standing there in his arms, I almost let myself believe that none of it had happened. That I hadn't broken something sacred inside myself. That I was still the woman he believed I was. But it was there. It was always there. Lingering just beneath the surface. A crack running down the middle of everything we touched. I went through the motions like nothing had changed. I packed his lunch. I laughed at his jokes. I tucked the kids into bed and kissed them goodnight. But inside, I was falling apart. Every touch felt wrong. Every smile felt stolen. Every I love you caught in my throat like glass. I couldn't stop replaying that night. Couldn't stop seeing the look in Marcus's eyes. Couldn't stop feeling the weight of his hand on my face. The desperate way our mouths had found each other. The way my body had betrayed me. I started avoiding mirrors. Started hating the woman who looked back at me when I caught a glimpse of my reflection. Started questioning who I really was underneath the good wife, good mother mask I had worn so carefully for so long. Should I tell him? Should I rip open the wound and let it all bleed out? Let him hate me. Let him leave if he needed to. At least it would be honest. Or should I bury it? Pretend it never happened. Protect what was left of the life we built. Protect the kids. Protect him from a truth that would only destroy him. I didn't know what was right anymore. I didn't know who I was anymore. All I knew was that I couldn't escape the feeling that I had betrayed more than my marriage. I had betrayed myself. The woman I thought I was. The promises I thought I'd never break. Was it loneliness that kissed him back? Or was it a part of me I never wanted to admit existed? A part that was tired of waiting. Tired of feeling invisible. Tired of carrying the weight of being the good one. I didn't know the answer. And that scared me more than anything else. Because if I couldn't even trust myself, what was left to save? Have you ever found yourself doing something? Not because you stopped loving someone, but because you forgot how it felt to be loved at all? Because that's what it felt like. It wasn't about falling out of love. It wasn't about wanting someone new. It was about standing in a life you built with your own hands and realizing you were starving for something you couldn't even name. I never stopped loving Mark. Not for a second. But somewhere along the way, I stopped loving myself enough to say no to the loneliness. Stopped believing I deserved more than the silence. I don't know if that makes me a monster or just human. Please tell me in the comments. Was I a villain? Or just a broken woman longing to be seen? I need to know. Because some nights, when the house is quiet and the guilt creeps back in, I still can't decide which one I am. If stories like this stir something deep inside you, if they make you feel seen in the places you don't show anyone, please like this video and subscribe to Heartfelt Tales Unfold. Here, we don't just tell stories. We unravel the human heart. Desire doesn't knock on your door wearing warning signs. It doesn't come screaming danger. It doesn't come draped in red flags. Sometimes, it arrives wearing a friend's smile. Sometimes, it speaks with the voice of someone you trusted most. And when it leaves, it doesn't take everything with it. It leaves the wreckage behind. The broken pieces scattered across the life you thought you knew. The questions that don't have answers. The memories you can't scrub clean, no matter how hard you try. It leaves you sitting in the dark, holding the pieces, trying to figure out which ones are still worth saving. Be careful who you open your door to. Be careful who you lean on when the weight gets too heavy. Sometimes, the worst betrayals don't come wrapped in malice. Sometimes, they come wrapped in comfort.